Welcome to the After the Show movie podcast, brought to you by your hosts, Ascully and Cidtalk. We're addicted to movies. Are you? Hello, everybody. Happy Friday, Cidtalk.
Hello.
It is Friday, but you might be listening to it on any number of days, and you can say I'm incorrect. Well, you can't say I'm incorrect about it being Friday today.
Correct.
You can say, what the hell, it's Tuesday. Say that at your radio. I was going to say we're on the radio. Are we on the radio? The internet radio.
Is this the before the after the show discussion? It is not.
It is.
It wasn't. And there wasn't any, really. You made some tea. You talked about...
My robot vacuum sucked up a whole sock.
Riveting.
Well,
riveting stuff.
Pretty talented to get a whole sock in its mouth.
Pretty talented to leave a sock on the floor, which I did, that was just the right size for it to suck it up. So I'm taking credit for that.
All right. Well done.
It's the Olympics of vacuuming.
You win the award.
Thanks.
It is Friday, July the 26th. This is After the Show. We're a movie review podcast. Every week we look at a new movie. And this week, on episode 849, we're looking at the new movie Challengers. It's a 2024 movie out on Blu-ray right now, rated R. Its runtime is 2 hours and 11 minutes, and it's from our friends at Warner who sent us the Blu-ray for review. Cidtalk, you can give us the synopsis of the movie Challengers, and then I'll give you the real one.
The synopsis is 3 people who don't seem to function very well unless they're in a very poisonous relationship with one another. And there's tennis.
Nice.
All right? That's right.
Tashi, a famous tennis prodigy turned coach, turned her husband into a champion. But to overcome a losing streak, he needs to face his ex-best friend and Tashi's ex-boyfriend. That too much information?
I mean, again, toxic. In tennis, toxic relationships. Yeah, see?
Right.
I was right. I just didn't say it as nicely as they did.
So, Challengers, what did you think? Oh, this is from director Luca Guadagnino. I can never say his name. Can you say it?
Hold on. I'm yawning.
Oh, hold on. We got you in the bored phase already.
No. Just got started on that one.
Luca Guadagnino.
That's not correct, but close enough.
Luca Guadagnino.
I don't think you say every letter.
I do.
I mean, I don't think you do.
Guadagnino.
Okay, they can look it up.
Anyway, this director, call him Luca, made Bones and All, the remake of Suspiria, and Call Me By Your Name with Timothée Chalamet, which won an Oscar, I believe. So, what do you think?
I enjoyed the movie of it. And some people might complain that there's a lot of slow motion, but I feel like it was right. And I'm not usually one for gimmicks, but it felt reasonable for the most part. But I'm telling you now, when I fucking don't like people in a movie or listening to people chew and fucking eat
this is your
and
problem.
Swallow drinking, it's not just my problem. So I'm sick of people saying that too.
What I'm saying is it doesn't bother me.
Right, but it is unacceptable. And it turns me off almost immediately. And then I'm just terrified that at any minute they're going to fucking swallow and gulp and chew again. So I got that going on. And then they're all unlikable. Everybody. So I think that's intentional.
Yes.
As a trio.
It's just poison.
It is poison. So we'll tell the brief story. She's a tennis phenom when they meet her. They're both from rich families and they both play tennis, the dudes. And they're like partners and they're sort of rising up in the tennis world together. They meet her. She's 18. She's going to college, right? She's like, but she can see that pitting them against each other brings out more of their competitive nature, or so she thinks, you know? And then playing off of that for the next 13 years. So we have time travel. We go to now, we go back 13, we go back 12, we go back 8 years. We go back to last week. We go back to 3 days ago. Blah,
it's
blah,
not
blah.
sequential.
It is not sequential. It's
No.
just telling you the history of this trio and how at the point we're at now, because the trio hasn't been able to be toxic with each other for the last decade, not really. She ends up marrying one and having a kid, and he's the tennis star. He's the famous one. They have bodyguards.
And we're talking really famous.
Yeah. He's like top of the game. He's about to go win the whatever they call it, when he wins the third big thing, you know?
Is it the Grand
And his
Slam?
other friend, it might be. And his friend, who also is rich, so he pretends to be poor because he sleeps in his car, but they're both rich. They're covered. They're just doing tennis as like this thing. Like it's in them to do it. She was raised poor and worked her way into this world. And I feel like that's where she gets her drive to play this crazy game with them.
Yeah.
That's never enough to be rich. She just wants to win constantly. She wants to win. She doesn't, I don't think, care about them winning their games. She just wants to be the winner. Along the way, she gets injured, so she doesn't play anymore. So now we're at the point where she's pulling the gang back together here. And
she's invested in both of them in a way.
In a way, yeah. Emotionally, mostly.
Yeah.
And now she has an opportunity to sort of like inject life back in both of them, because one's kind of on the outs and he doesn't win very much and he just sort of does the tennis circuit. The other one is the rich, famous tennis player, right? But it's all kind of blah and nobody's interested and they're all sort of checked out emotionally. And she wants to.
When she says at the beginning to him, what can I do to make you like you used to play? Be like you used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what she's talking about, is to inject this toxicity back into the trio.
Yes. So it's a love triangle set in the world of tennis at its basic level. That's it. But it's also got what makes it different from another tennis or another sports movie. It feels kind of different to me. More of a drama than a sports movie.
I don't know. It feels very much like the rowing one to me. You know what I mean?
Which was the rowing one?
I forget the name of it, but
The Social Network had some rowing, didn't
might have. Whatever had like intense, but it was all very ego driven, and the power and the lust of winning and the tactile thing of like running yourself ragged just to win, you know, and like somehow connecting to some higher plane of consciousness when you're like really in the zone, all that shit.
Yeah.
I feel like that.
And just being really ugly to each other to try and drive each other.
All for that moment on the court, because she describes in the beginning that tennis is a relationship. And for a few minutes, or for 15 seconds, I think she said, her and this other young lady were in it together and the world disappeared. And it's like, it's a metaphor for really good sex, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And then the whole rest of their 10 to 13 years, they're not getting that. And now they're trying to get that back, I think.
I would describe this movie, I would give it a different title, to be honest. My title would be Challenging. And the reason it's challenging is I had a love affair with this movie, in a way.
Okay.
I started off like really hot on it, and then I kind of lost interest. And then I got hot on it again, and then I lost some interest. It was kind of weird. It was like, oh, I think this is one of the best films I've seen. Oh, now I really don't like it very much. It was very weird. Like it just kept.
Well, that's fascinating.
And it kept changing throughout I was like, okay, I love loud 9 Inch Nails dance music during tennis sequences, because it doesn't seem to fit. Like it doesn't seem to be the music I would expect here. So I love that. But then like an hour and a half down the line, I'm like, oh God, not another sequence. Like,
I thought that too. And it wasn't
like it was great. And then it wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was like you'll be playing like this really intense, like, okay, I get it. It's emotional. It's hot and heavy. We're into it. And then immediately stop and cut to like a scene with like
Just
a
nothing.
TV on. Yeah, it wasn't smoothed in very nicely.
No. And it kept relying on the same trick over and over. Like, so by with it being 2 hours and 11 minutes, by like the 90-minute mark, I was over switching from very loud dynamic action to somebody just sat on a couch. I was over that. So it started to wear me down a bit.
Oh, okay. How about the slow motion?
The slow motion is a bit much.
It can be, for sure.
At the end. The end sequence, I'm like, with the sweaty men. I'm like, okay, slow motion, sweaty men.
We get it.
Okay, this is going to be like 90 seconds of sweaty men, and then it goes 2 minutes, and then it seems to go 5 minutes. Do we need any more? I realize he's hot and angry probably, and can we just hit the ball now? You know? It also tries like every trick in the book to show you tennis action. Underneath, on top, POV view, anything you can possibly think of. It tries to do all of it, and I don't think it succeeds trying to do that. Because it's a bit...
It did have a lot of tricks up its sleeve, like the slow-mo and the sweat and the sounds of chewing, and the one character who's in your personal space too much, the dark-headed guy. He's the guy who's right up on you.
He weirds me out.
Literally I wanted to back up in my chair because he's just, and I get it, there are people like that, but my goodness, that kind of, and then it got a little bit like, okay, we get it. He's that guy. Okay. We don't need to have you have the camera over his shoulder and seeing how imposing he is over and over. We get it.
Maybe that's the new title, Challenging, Okay, We Get It. Because it plays a lot of cool things up front, but then doesn't do anything else except for play them all over and over again, right? Also, my other issue, if I have an issue with it, is it's a whole lot of build-up for nothing, really.
What do you mean?
Yes, there's a relationship in the middle of this. It's like sexy and a bit weird, and there's tennis. And then when it was doing all that, and then it cut to tennis, I was like, well, let's have a really intense tennis match now. But they kind of like abbreviate the tennis matches in the middle of the movie a lot to get back to them arguing with each other.
True.
If this was mixed nicely, I would, okay, we've seen them argue and be intense for a while. Now we'll have a tennis. Now we'll focus on a tennis match, and then we'll get back to them again. But it doesn't balance it. It just cuts to tennis and then moves on to another argument. And then at the end, we get kind of another thing, if this bugs you, this actual trope in a movie. Near the beginning of the movie, it sets up this tennis match between these two guys. And then it cuts to years before. And the tennis match that you were invested in, the one that you want to see them play in the modern day, you see that like in 1 minute cuts every 30 minutes or something. You see a little bit of it every 30 minutes. And then at the end, it gets resolved, ? So it's not satisfying that at the end, you're like, oh, okay. We don't really see the whole match.
I didn't really notice what you're saying. No, that didn't bother me.
Did it feel unsatisfying though, that the modern day tennis match? Which is what the movie kind of premises itself on at the beginning.
I didn't feel that at all. I didn't feel like that was the focus. I feel like either this trio was going to completely dissolve and implode, or they were going to all discover that they need to remain in this weird triangle forever in order for all of them to succeed.
Yeah.
And I feel like the tennis wasn't that important. So the match didn't matter to me. It was that all of them resolving, as we see zooming in on them slow motionly, that they've all accepted that they need this trio to keep going in all aspects. And so the tennis to me could have been any sport, could have been car racing, could have been, and the fact that we don't get the big payoff, that didn't really, to me, it doesn't tell you the story. So the story is these three people realizing we're connected forever. We just have to accept it. And I got that. So
there's a whole section where it's very windy, and it feels like it's the only reason for it to be windy is so it looks windy.
Well, it's like saying, here's the storm that's coming up, and then there's not much of a storm.
But how lame is that?
And there was no big payoff for that. There was no anything,
Yeah, so there's like style over substance for sure.
Oh, definitely. Oh, definitely.
Putting the rocking score in there. You've never seen tennis played to this kind of music before. You're like, whoa, this is cool. And then the other thing is gimmicky camera angles. They're all over the place, the cameras. True. That can get tiring. You know what else got tiring to me? Their relationship. I know it was supposed to be tiring,
I get you 100%. I was tired of it. I was tired of it when they were teenagers. Well, they weren't teenagers, but
the whole relationship's supposed to be tiring. That's the idea of it. It's like people who are just using each other and not being very nice to each other. And the whole thing is, you're like that all the time. So,
like, it's grubby.
I guess the movie did what it was supposed to do, because very early on, I was like, this relationship between these three, I don't know if I can take it. Don't think I need to see it play out to its bitter
because
end.
It's not compelling. They're not interesting to me. Like, I'm not compelled by them physically. So none of the quote unquote, we'll say, sexy scenes are sexy at all. It's all very like, ew, your egos are bigger than everything else. And that was very much of a turnoff, all of it. And if you notice, we have like two or three big make-out sessions that are supposed to lead up to sex, and then they don't, and everyone kind of walks away completely unsatisfied.
Like the movie. Like
yes.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm not interested in watching these people.
And he tries to film the sex scenes in a unsexy way, I found. Because it's a lot of slobbering.
Yeah, there's a lot of slobbering in this movie. It's disgusting. And I don't
it's
mean
not particularly like, it's just real matter of fact. Here's two people slobbering.
Yeah.
So I guess that works if that's what he was going for. But for me, it just all became like, oh, here's some slobbering. Here's some loud music. Here's some camera angles.
Here's some slow motion. Don't forget the slow motion.
Here's some slow-mo. Here's some sweaty men.
They really were sweaty. My God, I don't even get it.
I didn't get it. I knew, I was like, oh, this is metaphoric or something, right? They're not really that sweaty. Have you seen Airplane?
Yeah.
It's like when he's landing the plane in Airplane. It's like, I picked the wrong week to quit heroin. It's like that guy. So yeah, I think that was like the whole intense situation is getting on top of everybody at that point.
It got boring.
Yes, it did.
It got very boring because there's no dimension to any of them as people. There's the dark-headed one who's like the rogue. He's really inappropriate. He's in it just for the crack of it. You know what I mean? We find out he's very rich, and so he doesn't have to do anything ever. She's made that very clear. And yet he lives this sort of like pouty life of, poor me, I can't even afford the hotel, but in fact, he can. So that's really boring. Then we have the blondie who is basically doing exactly what was laid out in front of him, I think, from the time he was a kid, right?
Become the champion at tennis.
Become the champion, have the hot wife, have the kid, be the famous guy, do all the stuff, become the pundit, retire from all that. And then she is like the scrapper who has made her way. I mean, her intentions are to have security, I guess. I don't even know what her intentions are other than to win everything.
Be successful just overall.
But those are very flat, two-dimensional things, and you don't get anything else. Like, you don't get her having a moment of crisis at all about like cheating on her husband. You don't get the friend's moment of like regret, except putting the ball in the middle of the racket. Because at that point, so early in the movie, they have this little conversation where when they first meet this young woman, the woman who ends up being part of the triangle, the dark-headed young man ends up having a relationship with her. And the other one's like, oh, you don't have to tell me that you had sex with her. Just give me a sign. Put the ball in the middle of the racket thing like I do when I serve the ball. You don't even have to say it. Just do that and I'll know that you had sex with her, right? He does it. So then the blondie knows what's going on. Later in the movie, way down the road, 13 years later at the big match, when the night before our dark-headed rogue has had a bit of a fumble with the wife. And then he's torn, I think, a little bit between pursuing her like this nasty little secret and his friend who he seems to care about more. And then he does it. He puts the ball in the middle of the rack to say, guess what happened between me and your wife? And then you get this like, then I'm like, oh, so now we're going to turn on her. These gentlemen are going to figure out that they just want to be friends forever and she's the poison or something.
Using them both.
Something interesting, right? None of that happened. It just was like an agreement between the three of them, like, we're all fucked up.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And that's where it had I would say the first 20 minutes, very effective. I was sucked into it. I love all of this. And then as it went on, I was like, is this it? Is this literally it? Is it just a poisonous relationship between three people with tennis? Or is there something else? Is it going to be a murder? Is it going to be something?
Oh, wow.
No.
You really...
I thought there was going to be, because of the nature of their relationship,
right.
I thought it would go terribly bad at some point, right? Somebody would end up going bad. And I thought dark-haired guy was going to go really bad. And maybe kill somebody, right? Because he's weird. You know the scene where he gets in the sauna and he's got his penis out and he's kind of waving his penis in the other guy's face, so to speak. Like, look at me. I'm the king.
And you know where my dick has been.
Yeah.
It's been in your woman.
Yeah. So that scene there, when that was happening, and it was the most passive-aggressive talk between them both. I was like, I think there's going to be some action. And I don't mean with his penis. I mean some actual... I think somebody's going to get the end of a gun or something. But it's not that. And it never goes to that or anything, does it? It's not. So... And maybe that's where I was a bit disappointed. I was like, well, okay, the whole thing's the relationship, and that's it.
And that's really it.
Because if you come into this to watch cool tennis, there's not really much tennis. I mean, there's...
Oh, I disagree.
There's awkward camera angle tennis.
There's a lot of tennis, and I got bored with the tennis, you see.
Oh, see, I never did. I was like, please more tennis and less kissing. You know, less of that. I'm not against kissing, but I don't. I would rather see the ball.
Yeah, I know.
I'd rather see the ball getting smacked back and forth. The showdown, let's call it, the end sequence with the sweat and the slow motion and the. Because it was filmed as it was, it never got exciting.
True.
It just got slow motion for 5 minutes now, and it keeps putting the title up on the screen, set match. Like to tell you like where we are score-wise, as though that's the next chapter of this thing. And I'm like, okay, it's really going to open up now. But no, it's sweating time now for a bit. And now it's love point or whatever. And, it just goes on and on. Started off loving it, and I ended up not knowing how I feel about it very well. So that's my relationship with this movie. Like a poisonous relationship.
Kind of.
So you're on the same page, or do you like it better?
I am kind of. Like, it was because I don't find these dynamic, ego-driven relationships that fascinating, like old kings. Even Game of Thrones has a bit of that, with the bravado and the even they've all got it. So I'm not trying to establish a masculine thing to it, but this chest thumping, I'm going to be the best and I'm going to be the top of everything, and gritting the teeth and being like, fuck everybody, I'm it. That does not interest me at all. And that's kind of where this was. And the whole time I was like, okay. Can we have a breakdown and to be kind of human? Yes. A little bit? The only humanity we see with her is with her mom and her daughter. And then she's just like a person every other time. And
she's a robot.
We even address it when she's about to have sex with the dudes, both of them, I think, at different times. And even the dudes have the same conversation. One of them says to the other, are you talking about tennis? Still talking about tennis? And the other one's like, of course.
Yeah.
What else would I be talking about? That's it. That is the dimension of this relation. And I don't find that compelling.
Yeah, the dimension is tennis and sex. Well, it doesn't seem to be connection.
I don't think that's a separate thing.
Yeah, but the connection between them all seems just to be driven by success. That's it.
Yes.
Not by we actually really like each other here. There is a little bit of that, I guess, because of how weird they all are with each other. Very close with each other,
Yeah, I wanted to see the day after this big tennis match and have them all sitting at a table and the little daughter and the mom is there. And they're actually just acting like, you know what? Let's just be friends.
Yeah, let's just be regular people.
But you know what? There must be people like this in the world, and they don't function on just standard operating.
I just read an interview with the director who said somebody asked him the really boring question. So what really happened at the end?
Oh, God, don't ask him.
They asked him that, and he said, I don't care what happened at the end. I like an open-ended conversation. I want people to talk about the movie. And he said, as far as I'm concerned, these people don't even exist the day after. Like, that's the end of my story with them. I don't care about them anymore. That's the end of it.
I like that answer.
Yeah. You've seen everything you need to see.
Yeah, exactly.
The end. So that actually lifted it up a little bit for me, because I was like, yeah, I get that, because the ending's going to really bug people. It didn't bug me, actually, because
you said it did bug you before.
Tennis match bugged me, that it was unsatisfyingly played out with the sweating and the slow motion. The actual end of the tennis match, I actually was like, that's kind of an interesting way to end it, by not spoilers.
By not
having a result. Well, there is a result, but you don't know it. And that's it. So some people will go, well, that's just the end of The Sopranos. You don't know what the fuck happened. Yeah, it is kind of that. So if that kind of ending bugs you, this is not the movie for you. Let's get on.
I'd say give it a try. Don't say don't watch it. Just be like, okay,
Let's get on to the cast. Zendaya plays Tashi Donaldson. What do you think?
Oh, she's good.
I actually think she had moments of brilliance in this movie.
Absolutely.
That moment where she's talking to them both for the first time in the bedroom.
Yeah.
And she's trying to figure them both out by asking kind of specific questions, but they're just answering her. And you can see that every step of the way, she's like, okay, I get him. And now I get him. I get exactly where they're coming from.
She is calculating.
Yeah. And then she puts her head back and you're like, you can see it all. I think she's really good in it.
Yeah, really good.
And I really liked her in Dune as well. Mike Feist plays Art Donaldson. He's the champion player guy who's married to her. What do you think of him?
I think they're both really good. I think they're equal, except I dislike them both, not the people, the characters.
See, I think they played Mike Feist, who plays Art, her husband. I think he played it really well. And
he played it well enough for me to dislike him, yes.
Yeah. And the way that the other guy, Josh O'Connor, who plays Patrick Zwei, he's just a wild card kind of guy, isn't he? The kind of guy you don't know what the fuck he's going to do.
He's unlikable.
Yeah. So there's that. And then there's this guy who's a bit more measured than he is. And the way they react to each other, because they've known each other so long, I did buy all that.
Oh, for sure. Definitely.
So the acting, yes, but the characters, hugely unlikable, including Zendaya.
Absolutely.
Where you're like, I can't get behind any of you.
No, they're just awful.
This is directed by Luca, who did Bones and All, Suspiria, Call Me By Your Name. What do you think of the directing? And you know what? If I was going to say something about this guy, his movies are not the same.
True.
He's got a very different, broad kind of thing going on. Because this is nothing like any of those. And all of those are all different to each other, to be fair.
All true.
What do you think of his directing here?
I think that because there's some editing weirdness at times, I question that.
It's choppy for sure.
A little bit choppy in terms of understanding like how to get a message, like instead of dialogue, right? Because it's motion pictures, it's not motion dialogue. So to watch a person's face figure out something and you understand what they're feeling and what is on their mind without them speaking, that I think is good direction.
There's a lot of that.
There's a lot of that, and it makes sense. Like there's a lot of times when you're really zoomed in on people and their performance without saying anything tells you, and that comes from someone sitting you down and saying, here's what's going on with this guy. I don't want you to say anything, but I want you to dig deep and feel like you just realized that your wife cheated on you, but really she's cheating on you to get the best out of you. So I want to see that on your face. You know what I mean? That's complex, but then you see it on their faces. And so I feel like that is good direction. The slow motion, the actual camera shots, cinematography, it's a bit gimmicky, but I didn't mind it.
Yeah, I didn't like the POV thing where it did it every now and then where...
Yeah, like right from that, like they had a little chest camera on or something. Yeah, I didn't love that, but it didn't bother me.
While it's like an interesting look, it's very hard to figure out what's happening while it's happening. So I was actually glad when they cut to a shot of above the court and I could see everything. I was like, oh, that's much better. But yeah, it was trying like, oh, this is what it looks like for a tennis player down on the court. Well, maybe not that confusing. So extras, there are no extras on this disc, which is weird for a Blu-ray disc, but we can't comment because there was nothing. IMDB reviews, what are those?
Those are reviews you're going to look up that are 1 star, I'm assuming. Sometime you said you might go for 10 star, the high star ones when...
If I hate it.
Okay, so but you like this one?
I'm in the middle on this one.
So you're going to look for 1 star reviews.
Yeah.
And that's people saying like, oh, this movie is so boring. Just like pretty much what I said. It's not a waste of your time, though, because it's a film experience that I enjoyed. So
I think you'll remember it.
I can find flaws in a thing and still have an overall very enjoyable movie watching experience. These people don't seem to have that, if you notice.
No. So first guy says, huge disappointment. The actors are trying hard to make this movie work, but the plot of the movie is so lame. There's no explanation of anybody's motivation. The last minute of the film is literally people sweating and a ball POV.
Well, there
it
you go.
Sucked.
Someone else noticed.
Yeah. What the hell was that? The second guy says, honestly, this has to be the most mundane movie I've ever watched. Not one of them offer up a good performance that made the movie, it made the movie unbelievable. To cast 3 mid-looking actors to play a steamy love triangle was a bad choice.
Mid-looking?
I mean, they're not mid-looking.
I mean, is that really what your priority is?
Yeah.
It's like,
please make them more beautiful.
Please.
I mean,
I wouldn't screw any of those people.
Zendaya, what a mid-looking lady.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, clearly not. But hey,
clearly not.
If this is considered a great movie these days, I have real concern for the future of Hollywood. What a joke. Dumb characters, stupid dialogue, crappy dance music, idiotic plot, flat acting, ridiculous story, cringy love triangle, and an insane amount of camera cuts. Who approved the insane music during the sequences? It sucked. It always ends with it. Sucked.
It sucked. It just sucks.
And then he says also, he's got a little one line at the bottom. Also, I don't want to see penises or naked guys, please, Hollywood.
Oh, okay.
All right. Just a little side note.
Yeah, because it's very important that you don't ever see a naked penis, but seeing her in her underwear didn't seem to bother you.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe he hated that too, just didn't get around to it.
Nah, he would say that. He's just a misogynistic prick. That's what we're going to say about that guy. Person. Right. I don't know what it is. Person.
Yeah, could have been a woman.
Could have been in it, yes.
All right. So, in conclusion, challenges, I am going to give a 6 out of 10.
I'm going to give a little more than that. I'm going to go at least 7 just because visually I was very interested.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like it was well paced. It felt substantial all through. I wasn't ready for it to be over. And it was right. And sometimes that can make me have a lower score, like if it drags on or if it's too short. But this one just seemed... it told me the story of these people who I find really obnoxious and annoying and sort of boring, but I got the story of them. So.
Well, I would say for me, it was a 9 in the first 20 minutes. It was really, really high and it dropped throughout. So Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross do the soundtrack, and that actually pumped it up a little bit for me because I really like listening to them. And there's an actual 9 Inch Nails song at the end, like a new one. Which you might go into it just to listen to that. Did you like that?
It was all right. Yeah.
I always enjoy listening to Trent, and it's absolutely 100% Trent Reznor music.
Absolutely.
Throughout the movie.
Yep.
That bass line kicks in, you're like, yep, this is where we are. It's a Trent Reznor joint. All right, so thank you to Warner Brothers. Next week, we're going to look at a new movie. It's called Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
You like some apes?
I do.
You like...
I like Planet of the Apes in general.
I like Planet of the Apes too.
But, I mean, it has its moments.
It does.
As a franchise, but I am all in.
All right, so we'll watch that next week. Movie recommendations. I didn't put any down, but I will give you these, right? This will be off the top of my head. First one, another movie with Zendaya, Dune and Dune Part 2. Recommended highly.
You've always liked those.
Yeah. And the other two, the other one I would give you is the Suspiria remake by Luca Guadagnino.
Okay.
Sorry, Luca. I would give you some movie with these other two guys in it, but I've never seen them before. Have you? These two fellas in this movie? I feel like I've never seen them before.
I thought we'd seen the one. Maybe not.
No, I was like, wow, a movie with people that I've never seen. This is really weird. So, yeah, they're my recommendations. Yours
my recommendations are movies from the 20th century, either action, adventure, etc. But so I think I ran out of those because now when I look at, because I set this up like the first week of the year, I preload them all in, just so you know, in my spreadsheet. And this week they're not really action adventure because we have, and these aren't for quality. These are just movies I've seen, period. Just so you know what I've seen come into my world.
Period.
So we have Nuts, which is not action adventure at all.
Is it pornography?
It is not pornography. It is Barbra Streisand. It's quite dramatic.
Oh.
Then we have Funny Lady, also Barbra Streisand. Sweet Dreams. That would be the story of, Sweet Dreams. No, not that one. The other one. Not Sweet Dreams Are Made of These.
Is it the story of the Eurythmics?
It is not. It's the other Sweet Dreams person. Patsy Cline. That's it. Then we have Prince of Tides, also not action adventure. Very depressing, very dramatic. And Agnes of God, also that's Jane. What's her face?
Nope.
You do. She's very famous.
Seymour?
Fonda. That's another one. Yeah. Also those are all dramas. So that's where we're falling in on that.
You know what? I've not seen any of those.
Well, Funny Lady.
I don't think I've seen it.
Well,
I know what it is. I just haven't
Prince of Tides, really? Because that one's with Nick Nolte, Barbra Streisand.
I never saw it. Would I like it?
They're all very of their times. High drama. Very melancholy.
Melodramatic?
Not really melodramatic, but digging deep in the trauma of things in life and the drama that comes from that.
Oh, you sound like a trailer.
Digging deep for the trauma?
Yeah.
You think they'd put that in a trailer?
Yeah. All right. Ascully stuff. I've been playing more Suicide Squad. I told you about it last week, so I don't really have to tell you again. I've just been playing more of it. The Suicide Squad, where I'm up to, we just killed the Flash. The Flash was pretty hard to kill, but Cidtalk, because, well,
he's fast.
The obvious.
He's very fast.
Yes. So, Harley Quinn's like, hold on, I'll try and get him. Oh, he's run away. Yeah, we had to figure it out. It was pretty cool, actually, trying to figure out how to kill the Flash. Because that's not easy. So, I've been playing a bit more of that. I'm just working my way through it. What's for dinner?
I think we're going to go with the Jimmy John's. Jimmy John's. Because there's a coupon. Buy one, get one half off.
Coupons are always good.
We're not sponsored. It's just you asked, and I'm telling you.
You can give us some free coupons if you want.
We're vegetarian, and that's why we're telling you what we're eating, because we're not starving to death, and we're both fine and healthy, and that's it, really.
Give us your advice, and then we'll just get the F out of it.
My advice this week is not advice. I'm sure that's surprising to everyone who listens on a regular basis. It is just a bit of inspirational quote that is from I'm from a very small town, small class. I've been out of high school since 1986, so you do the math. But we try to do reunions every 5 years. We have a close-knit group, and amongst them is one dude who's married to a lady who this week is rowing in a kayak in a race hundreds of miles. And one of the things that's getting her through, because he's posting about it, is she just keeps saying, we can do hard things, because it's hard, right? It's hard to row hundreds of miles on a river. It just seems really, really hard. And I think that's a good thing, because, I think sometimes, I can't do that. I can't fix that thing. I can't draw that picture because I do some artwork. And then if I think about it, you can do hard things, just do it. The failure will be, as long as you're not trying to do heart surgery when you don't know how to do heart surgery, just because, I can do hard things. Don't do that. I'm not saying that, but just on a daily life basis, we didn't know how to fix a garage door spring that flew off one day in our house. And, to pay somebody $500 to get it fixed was and you're like, I can fix that. It wasn't easy. You had to do a lot of research, and we had to buy the parts, and then you figured it out and you did it.
I did fix it. I remember that.
You fixed much plumbing in our house, some electrical things, and you think first, that's too hard. I can't do that. And then you're like, you know what? Somebody does it. I mean, I'm going to pay somebody to do it. Why can't I just do it? So more power to you, Karen. Keep rowing. That's her name. And you can do hard things.
All right. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Ascully.com. That's the place you can go to get this podcast. You can also go to Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, YouTube, anywhere that podcasts are available. We're on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Just find us on there. I'm Ascully, she's Cidtalk. Email me, ascully@ascully.com. Do not email Cidtalk, she doesn't want your email. And stay classy, Luca Guadagnino. Thank you.
I'm going to say think for yourselves or someone's doing it for you.